The tension in the Gulf rose sharply after reports emerged that Iran had launched a new wave of missiles and drones toward military facilities used by the United States and Kuwait. According to statements circulated by Iranian military sources, several American positions were selected as targets, including bases that support logistics, communications, surveillance, and troop deployment. The attack was presented by Tehran as a direct response to recent military pressure and as a warning that foreign forces in the region were no longer beyond reach. Images of bright flashes, smoke, and air defense activity quickly spread across social media, creating the impression of a large and coordinated operation. In Kuwait, residents reported hearing explosions, while defense systems were activated to track and intercept incoming objects. Iranian media claimed that some projectiles managed to pass through defensive layers and strike areas connected to United States operations. One of the most dramatic claims was that a powerful missile, described as part of the Fattah family, had hit a barracks or support compound and caused severe destruction. However, the first reports came from parties directly involved in the conflict, so the exact type of weapon, the precise location of impact, and the real scale of damage remained uncertain. What was clear was that the incident marked another dangerous stage in the confrontation, bringing the conflict closer to American personnel stationed in Kuwait and increasing fears that a wider regional clash could follow. The atmosphere grew extremely tense as military aircraft, radar crews, and emergency teams remained on alert. Beyond its physical impact, the strike also carried a political message. Tehran sought to show that it could reach strategic sites beyond its borders, while Washington and its partners faced pressure to demonstrate that their defenses could protect troops, equipment, and civilians from further attacks. Soon after the first explosions were reported, Iranian outlets released statements saying that the operation had struck several important military points. Among the locations mentioned were facilities associated with Camp Buehring, Camp Arifjan, Camp Doha, and Ali al-Salem Air Base, all of which have played different roles in supporting American forces in the Gulf. Iranian accounts describe the assault as carefully planned, combining missiles and unmanned aircraft in an effort to confuse radar coverage and place pressure on multiple defense systems at the same time. Some reports claim that storage areas, command equipment, communication centers, surveillance assets, and vehicles had been damaged. Other accounts went further, suggesting that a hangar used for MQ-9 drones, a radar installation, and a launcher connected to long-range rocket systems had been hit. The most dramatic version of the story focused on a barracks, or military compound, that was allegedly devastated after a high-speed missile reached its target. Supporters of Iran quickly shared the claims as evidence that American bases in the region could be attacked despite advanced protection. Yet the available information did not fully establish which structures were hit or whether every announced target had actually suffered major damage. In modern warfare, early battlefield reports are often shaped by propaganda, incomplete surveillance, and the desire to control the public narrative before independent evidence appears. For that reason, footage of distant explosions or burning objects cannot, by itself, confirm the weapon used or the exact place shown. Still, the number of reported targets and the rapid activation of regional defenses indicated that the assault was serious enough to force an immediate military response. Across the Gulf, commanders watched closely, aware that any miscalculation could trigger retaliation and expand the fighting far beyond Kuwait within mere hours. Kuwait's response became a central part of the story as its armed forces announced that air defense units were tracking and intercepting objects approaching from Iranian territory. Sirens, emergency procedures, and visible interceptor launches showed that the threat was being treated as real, even while officials avoided immediately confirming every claim made by Tehran. This distinction is important. A successful interception does not mean that every incoming missile or drone was destroyed, just as an explosion near a military site does not automatically prove that the intended target was completely eliminated. Defense networks are built in layers, using radar, command centers, surface-to-air missiles, aircraft, and electronic systems to identify threats and reduce the damage they can cause. During a mixed attack, however, even advanced networks may be forced to handle several objects, following different routes and moving at different speeds. Iran appeared to be using that pressure as part of its strategy. By combining drones with faster missiles, it could attempt to occupy defensive sensors, consume interceptors, and create opportunities for some weapons to continue toward their targets. Iranian media portrayed any impact as a major breakthrough, while Kuwaiti and American statements remain more cautious about casualties and structural losses. The absence of immediate detailed confirmation left space for competing narratives to spread online. Videos were reposted without clear dates, locations, or original sources, and dramatic captions often presented assumptions as established facts. For viewers, the safest conclusion was that a significant attack had occurred and that defensive systems had been activated. But the claim that an entire American barracks had been flattened still required stronger evidence, such as verified satellite imagery, official damage assessments, or independently authenticated footage made available to the public. The reference to the Fattah missile gave the story even greater significance because Iran has promoted that weapon as a symbol of speed, technological progress, and deterrence. Iranian descriptions portray the Fattah family as highly maneuverable and extremely difficult to stop, especially during the final stage of flight. In the information battle surrounding the Kuwait attack, naming such a weapon served an obvious purpose. It suggested that the strike had overcome sophisticated American and Allied defenses through superior performance. Nevertheless, identifying a missile from short nighttime footage is extremely difficult. A flash in the sky, the sound of an explosion, or a trail of smoke cannot reliably reveal the exact model involved. Confirmation normally requires several forms of evidence, including debris recovered from the impact area, radar or satellite data, clear launch imagery, technical analysis, and statements that can be compared across independent sources. None of those elements should be replaced by a dramatic caption alone. The same caution applies to claims that a barracks was flattened. That expression may describe total destruction, but it is also frequently used online to exaggerate a strike that damaged only part of a compound. A building can be hit without being destroyed, and a military base can continue operating even after losing equipment or suffering localized damage. Until detailed images and reliable assessments are available, the most responsible wording is that Iranian forces claim to have struck American-linked facilities in Kuwait and may have caused significant damage. Presenting the event in this way does not minimize its seriousness. Instead, it separates what has been reported from what has been independently verified and helps viewers understand how quickly uncertainty can become certainty in wartime media. Such caution matters as fear and political pressure continue rising across the Gulf region. Beyond the immediate question of what was hit, the attack carried consequences for the entire region. Kuwait hosts important military infrastructure and sits close to several strategic routes, energy facilities, and population centers. Any strike involving American forces there risks drawing additional governments into the confrontation, whether through defensive cooperation, logistical support, or political pressure. Iran's message appeared to be that continued attacks against its interests would produce costs for United States positions across the Gulf. At the same time, Washington and its partners had to consider how to respond without allowing a cycle of retaliation to grow into a much larger war. A forceful reply might restore deterrence, but could invite another Iranian strike. A restrained response might reduce immediate escalation, but could be portrayed as weakness. This difficult calculation explains why every missile launch, interception, casualty report, and damage claim receives intense attention. The Kuwait incident, therefore, should be understood not only as a military event, but also as a contest of messages. Iran wanted audiences to see reach and resolve. The United States and Kuwait wanted to show preparedness, defensive capability, and control. Between those narratives stood an incomplete picture shaped by smoke, distant recordings, official claims, and rapidly changing reports. The central story remains that Iran launched an attack toward facilities connected to American forces in Kuwait. Local defenses engaged the incoming threats, and Iranian sources announced major damage. Claims that the Fattah missile specifically destroyed an entire barracks remain possible, but unconfirmed without stronger evidence. As the situation develops, viewers should separate verified facts from wartime messaging and remember that the first dramatic account is rarely the final, complete version of events. The complete truth may emerge much later.